Good evening, everybody. It's May 13th, 2025. I hope everybody's doing well. We're going to talk about an article that Karen M. Stewart, NSA, retired intelligence analyst, wrote back in 2023, January 2023. It's called FBI Tip of the Iceberg. So please remember to hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel grow, get the message out there, and share this information. As of late 2022, multiple FBI whistleblowers have gone to congressional representatives like Jim Jordan and Charles Grassley to report that not only is the FBI purging conservatives and Christians from their ranks, but that the FBI field office in D.C. has ordered field offices all over the nation to put real crime on the back burner and get busy fabricating charges against the rank and file of American conservatives, especially to call them terrorist threats or white supremacists, so that the Biden administration, now remember this is back in 2023, and I'm reading an article for educational purposes only. I don't have an opinion on this. These are not my words. So that the Biden administration can take more and more draconian measures against people they perceive as impediments to their plans to declare the American people themselves to be the enemies of their totalitarian state and advance a falsified premise upon which to suppress, do away with, nullify yet more freedoms until we all have none. This Frame the Citizen program is actually the culmination of a very successful scam that the DHS, through the FBI, has been running more than 20 years, ever since the inception of FBI fusion centers after 9/11. They were touted as the remedy to the quote-unquote intelligence failures that led to 9/11. And no comments. They were places where local authorities and federal representatives of various agencies supposedly could go to quote-unquote fuse information to detect and prevent future terrorist attacks like 9/11. You know, that's sort of like that predictive policing. There are now about 80 across the USA. Might we expect one on each street corner eventually? Yet, in the 20 years, how many terrorists have they identified, much less how many attacks have they thwarted? Exactly. Zero. None. Nada. Zippo. News articles have even called them pools of ineptitude and remarked on how fusion centers continuously decline Congress's requests for accountability for all the billions of dollars spent by them. Billions. How are we in a situation where part of the government defies accountability to who oversees their funding? If they have not found or stopped one attack in over 20 years, then what are they doing? We know what they're doing, right? Are FBI fusion centers the proverbial Trojan horse for the takedown from within? There's a new committee forming in Congress to look into the quote-unquote weaponization of the federal government against the American people. It's nicknamed the Church Committee 2.0, referring to the congressional investigation in the 1970s that was meant to rein in unconstitutional criminal activity by the CIA against innocent Americans. This new committee claims it's been spurred on by the recent brazen FBI abuses of power, yet it really is only the tip of the iceberg and nothing new. The audacity and egregious disrespect the FBI actually has for the Constitution and the American people themselves has been on a collision course for exposure for a long time. They have, however, successfully hidden their depraved, covert war against thousands of innocent Americans for 20 plus years through the fraud fusion centers. How have they managed to do this? Unfounded trust in them is the key factor, as well as fictitious oversight. They have improperly claimed, quote unquote, sing with me guys, national security concerns, to secretly accuse, list, and target thousands upon thousands and thousands of Americans they know to be innocent. Then they blow off the congressional oversight and then blow off FOIA requests by the legalistic sleight of hand of having these fusion centers, quote unquote, privately owned. And it is not just that they are dishonestly bloating the watch list to get bigger budgets and more power, though that's certainly a driving factor. And they are not just legally surveilling victims. They are destroying lives and actually killing people while making money off doing it and blaming the victims, innocent people. This is human traffic lights on a very sophisticated and reprobate level like never seen before. Since the PAA and NDAA trample the Constitution and no one has had the sense to rescind them based on total lack of terrorist activity in 20 years, meaning that the U.S. is not actually in a state of emergency for that reason anymore, then using these unconstitutional acts criteria, an innocent person can be declared a threat and surveilled for life. The secretly targeted individual constitutional, civil, and human rights can be nullified by secret, fabricated lies. Legally telling this perverse wing of law enforcement to put up or shut up as laid out by the Constitution is not allowed. No challenges allowed by the victim, who's not even notified or allowed confirmation of being accused of a crime, or even acting suspiciously. I don't know, everybody around here acts suspiciously, right? I mean, how do you define acting suspiciously? Like, what's the criteria for that? Everything is secret. Secret accusation, secret crime, secret accuser, secret evidence. No one on this list has ever been charged, much less brought to trial. That's because the FBI fusion centers know that they're lying and defrauding the government and the taxpayers. They know. They cannot afford to be exposed in a court of law. They make their fortunes by endlessly surveilling until the victim's passing, or you can argue a fusion center victim's passing is never a natural causes. But what makes up this surveilling, bugging the individual's home, phone, car, hacking the internet, their computer, intercepting their mail, intercepting packages, putting secret cameras in the environment facing their home? Yes, but much more. One more contract is taken out on the target. Fusion Center sent operatives to viciously defame the target and then enlist the neighbors, co-workers, professional contacts, electricians, lawyers, accountants, bank employees, blue collar, etc., etc. So they're falsifying information. Everything about this watch list is totally contrived, fake, discrediting people, ruining their lives. They get off on it. So here you go. They make their fortunes by endlessly surveilling until the victim's passing. Or you can argue a fusion center's victim's death is never a natural cause. But what makes up the surveilling? Bugging the individual's home, phone, car, hacking their internet, their computer, intercepting their mail, intercepting their packages, putting secret cameras in the environment facing their home? Yes, but much more. Once a contract is taken out on a target, fusion centers send operatives to viciously defame the target and enlist neighbors, co-workers, professional contacts, doctors, lawyers, accountants, bank employees, blue-collar services such as plumbers, electricians, and even employees of frequented businesses. Blue-collar services. Not only report on them, but also to actively harass. Restaurants have been known to make food so inevitable as to discourage further business from the quote-unquote town pariah. Yes, your tax dollars are used in this pyramid scheme of abuse. And the given amount this is unbelievable, off the charts. In addition, the military-industrial complex, MIC, contractors, and certain rogue military can access these extremely difficult, dehumanized, now expendable non-people for non-consensual weapons testing for years or until their passing. War-grade gases, poisons, and directed energy weapons are often used on them 24/7 by neighborhood operatives. They're either trained by the fusion centers or who host. You can imagine that to detect these weapons requires very extensive high-tech equipment and highly trained experts. Impossible for a target to afford, much less find anyone in this torture matrix to actually help them. And certainly regular law enforcement is not capable or at all willing. Often an experienced professional neighborhood lead is moved into the area to coordinate the attacks once in play. Then, if the targeting... Wait, I just missed my spot. Once such home was found to be listed as a rental property owned by the DoD, though no DoD facility or entity was within 100 miles of the lone rental house in a neighborhood of single-family owned mortgaged homes. The weapons mentioned above are not exclusive. FBI fusion centers also take contracts from or partner with biotech entities that want non-consensual subjects to use for lucrative experiments using invasive medical chips, invasive nanotech, I just missed it again. A self-assembling biotech, transhumanist biotech, remote neural monitoring, RNM, etc. This entails getting help from corrupted medical personnel or simply knocking out the target and operating on injecting them. This is for educational purposes only. I'm reading an article by Karen Stewart, FBI, the tip of the iceberg. This subjects the person to voices emitted to their brain through pulse microwave sounds absorbed by the process of bone conduction used by many earphone brands. They can be random sounds or visual projections, or can be recorded harassment chatter or live harassment chatter to add salt to the abused wound and see what effect the incessant verbal abuse has on wearing down resistance and making the victim compliant and less than human by giving up free will, quote-unquote, to the master's relentless invasion of their minds. Make no mistake, this program was being beta tested for rollout to the U.S., the entire humanity, by inbred, criminal, narcissistic, sociopathic, billionaire, and tech-savvy, self-proclaimed elites and human predators with good God complexes and wealth, influence, and tech know how to do it. And we are at its precipice right now. Bold, decisive, immediate, and no holds barred actions are needed now by the so-called leadership who have been painfully slow to wake up the danger and find courage to address this in order to wrest our fate from the hands of these monsters before it's absolutely too late to save civilization and humanity. There is no more time to waste. No more. Do or die, rebirth our nation or bury it. Okay, that's the end. Anyway, I was reading an article, FBI Tip of the Iceberg, January 2023, Karen M. Stewart, retired NSA analyst. And there were a few gaps there because the criminals are intently trying to knock me out and put me to sleep. So if I have time, I'll edit those spots out. But just know that while I was recording and reading this, these criminals are actively trying to knock me out. Signing off for now.